Hey there, welcome back. Tonight, we were drifting quietly into the dawn of a world that doesn't yet know its own name, a small cluster of hills above a bend in the Tiber, where mist curls around laurel trees and wolves still roam among the stones. Before there were emperors, before there were legions, there was only a river, a shepherd's tale, and the faint shimmer of destiny caught in moonlight. By watching this video, you will learn how Rome, from its mythic birth to its mighty empire, rose out of legend and laid the foundation for 2,000 years of history. Before we begin, a small note. If you enjoy these calm journeys through history, I upload new videos every day, so consider subscribing and turning on the bell. And tell me, where are you listening from and what time is it for you right now? I love imagining people drifting off to the same story under different skies. Now, close your eyes and let's begin. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of wet reeds and pine. Somewhere, an owl calls from the dark ridge of the Palatine Hill. Down by the riverbank, the she-wolf lowers her head, her breath silver in the night. Between her paws lie two newborns, Romulus and Remus, twin sons of Mars, left to die by a fearful king. But the wild does not always obey the will of men. The wolf licks their foreheads, her warmth becoming their cradle, her heartbeat their lullaby. As dawn breaks, the shepherd Faustulus finds them. He carries them home, wrapped in wool, unaware that the small bundle in his arms will one day rule the world. In the village, smoke rises from clay hearths, bronze glints in the morning sun. The hills hum with life. Latins, Sabines, Etruscans, farmers, herders, craftsmen. They barter, they argue, they build with calloused hands. The twins grow beneath the hum of insects and the rhythm of flutes. Their laughter echoes between huts of mud and straw. They wrestle in the dust, climb the same fig tree where the wolf once sheltered them, and dream of founding something lasting, something worthy of their strange beginning. But as the years pass, the brothers begin to drift apart. Ambition seeps between them like water between stones. One dreams of order and rule, the other of freedom and honor. It is said that when they argued over which hill to build upon, the sky itself darkened, vultures wheeling in an omen no one could agree on. In the end, it was Romulus who struck the fatal blow. His brother fell, and silence followed. The air itself seemed to pause, as if the earth mourned the breaking of blood. Romulus, trembling, buried him beneath the hill. Then, alone, he drew a line in the dust, the first boundary of his city. "So perish all who cross my walls," he whispered. The city of Rome had been born in both hope and sorrow. The early settlement was humble, wooden huts, open fires, the scent of wool and smoke. But something unseen already pulsed beneath it, a will to endure. Farmers became citizens, warriors became lawmakers. Romulus gathered refugees, wanderers, and outcasts, offering them a home. He called his new citizens Romans, and in their eyes he saw the reflection of his own hunger for greatness. The wind moves through tall cypresses, carrying with it the sound of hammers and voices. The first forum takes shape. A few altars rise to Jupiter, to Mars, to Vesta, protectors of hearth and flame. The priestesses of Vesta tend a small fire that must never go out, for in it burns the soul of the city itself. In time, the city finds balance. Romulus rules fiercely, but wisely. He creates a senate of elders, senex, meaning old men, to guide his hand. Laws are spoken aloud beneath open skies, and every word echoes across the hills like prayer. The tribes beyond the Tiber begin to notice. There is strength growing here, and order. Yet peace does not come easily. The neighboring Sabines, proud and fierce, march upon the city. Legend says the Romans took their daughters to make wives. A story told in whispers, its edges blurred by time. But somehow, between violence and longing, the two peoples unite. The Sabine king, Titus Tatius, rules beside Romulus. Their thrones join beneath one roof. The city learns that survival sometimes demands forgiveness, or at least the appearance of it. Seasons pass. The small wooden city begins to breathe like something alive. Its streets fill with traders and soldiers. From the surrounding hills, smoke from 100 hearths spirals upward like offerings to unseen gods. Rome's name travels far, whispered by shepherds, sung by merchants, feared by enemies. Then one day, as suddenly as he came, Romulus vanishes. Some say he was torn apart by jealous senators. Others believe he was taken by the gods, rising into the storm with thunder at his back. Only a single feathered cloak remained, drifting down through the rain. In that silence, Rome became more than a city. It became a story, one written in blood and stone, one that would refuse to fade. Around evening fires, shepherds told their children of a king born of a wolf and a people born to rule. The stars over the Tiber flickered like sparks above a forge, as if the heavens themselves were shaping something vast and unending. You can almost hear it now, the murmur of the river, the crackle of torches, the first heartbeat of empire. A city built not on marble or conquest, but on a promise whispered under a wolf's moon. Part 2. Kings of Clay and Fire. The mists of dawn still cling to the 7 hills, though now the small settlement has learned to breathe like a body. Its heartbeat is steady, the rhythm of hammers striking bronze, of sandals brushing dry earth, of prayers murmured into wind. The huts have grown closer, bound by smoke and song. Beneath the thatched roofs, people begin to imagine permanence, not just a camp or refuge, but a home. The Romans speak of their kings now, though memory blurs their faces. After Romulus, the mantle passes to Numa Pompilius, a man of peace, a dreamer shaped by the quiet hills of the Sabines. He teaches his people patience, ritual, and rhythm. Under his hand, the city learns to pray before it fights. Temples bloom like flowers after rain. The round shrine of Vesta glows with an eternal flame, smoke curling upward, blending with the breath of the gods. The air smells of incense and fresh clay. Potters shape offerings, priests sprinkle salt upon stone. Numa divides time itself into order, days for sowing, days for harvest, days for rest. The year becomes a circle rather than a blur. The Romans begin to sense something larger than survival, the idea that law, faith, and rhythm might be stronger than the sword. They learn to listen for omens in thunder and birdsong, to weigh each decision as though the gods were watching. And perhaps they are, but peace never lasts long in a city born of wolves. When Tullus Hostilius takes the throne, the mood shifts. The fires of Vesta burn just as bright, but the clang of weapons returns. The Romans, restless and proud, long for battle. They march against Alba Longa, their ancient kin. The duel of the Hieraci and Curiati, 3 brothers against 3, becomes legend. When the dust settles, Rome stands triumphant, but blood marks the stones. In the cool evenings, the citizens gather around the hearths to tell the story. Victory has a taste both sweet and bitter. They speak of discipline, of fate, of how even family can be sacrificed for the survival of the city. In this, the Romans begin to define themselves, not as dreamers or wanderers, but as a people of duty. Then comes Ancus Marcius, builder of bridges and harbors. Under his rule, the Tiber no longer divides, but connects. The first bridge of wood stretches across the river like a promise, and trade flows with it. Salt, grain, wine, all pass beneath the low-hanging clouds. You can almost smell the damp wood and tar, hear the cries of merchants calling prices through the morning mist. The city grows heavier, richer, more sure of itself. Walls rise, sturdy and patient. The forum fills with markets and arguments. The Palatine hums with music and laughter. Rome is still young, but its bones are hardening. Then, like a spark catching in dry grass, the Etruscan kings arrive, men from the north, wrapped in dyed wool and strange power. Tarquinius Priscus brings artisans and builders, and with them comes transformation. Brick replaces timber. The cloaca, the great underground drain, is dug, taming the marshes. Beneath the smell of mud and labor, something grand takes root. The streets begin to shine with crushed stone. Bronze doors glint beneath torchlight. On the Capitoline Hill, a temple rises to Jupiter Optimus Maximus, vast, echoing, filled with the scent of burning offerings. The Romans look upon it and realize they have become something new, a people with gods who now dwell among them in walls of their own making. But wealth brings envy, and envy invites ruin. When Tarquinius Superbus seizes the throne, he rules with cruelty. His palace gleams with gold, but fear creeps through the alleys like smoke. The people whisper in the markets, in the baths, in the temples where their voices echo off marble and return in uneasy silence. Then comes the moment of fracture, the spark that will define the centuries to come. A noble woman's cry, an act of injustice too heavy to bear, and a rebellion rising from grief. The name Lucretia becomes sacred. Her death ignites a flame that will consume kings forever. In the gray morning that follows, the Romans gather beneath the sky. The air is sharp with dew and rage. One by one, they swear an oath. Never again shall any man be king in Rome. They open the city gates not to exile a tyrant, but to welcome an idea. That power could belong to more than one. The monarchy fades into legend, its ashes carried on the wind toward the hills. The last smoke of the king's hearths drifts upward, mingling with the dawn. The clay of their temples cools. In its place, something quieter but stronger begins. The murmur of voices discussing law, the rustle of togas in the wind, the slow awakening of the republic. You can almost hear it. The first debate beneath the open sky, the cautious pride in words like senatus and res publica. The wolf's descendants, once ruled by fire, now learn to rule by reason. Rome, once a village of shepherds, has found its rhythm, shaped by kings, refined by time, and ready to outlive them all. Part 3. The Republic Awakens. The dawn that follows the fall of kings feels cleaner, a sky rinsed of smoke and tyranny. The city wakes in the hush after thunder. Merchants open their stalls. Farmers cross the Tiber with baskets of figs and wheat. Children chase each other between columns still smelling of new plaster. There is something lighter in the air, not joy, but relief. Rome has survived its first rebirth. In place of a crown, the people raise an idea. They call it the res publica, the public thing, a shared realm belonging to citizens rather than rulers. 2 consuls now take the throne each year, their power divided like a candle's flame shared between 2 wicks. The Senate, once the king's council, becomes the city's voice. Old men, robed in white, speak beneath the open sky, their words mingling with the murmur of doves on the Capitoline. Still, freedom has its own kind of burden. Each decision must be argued, weighed, doubted. The Romans learn that liberty is slow, heavy, and fragile. Yet they endure it the way they endure winter, with discipline and faith. The forum fills with life. The smell of bread, the clatter of sandals, the echo of voices debating justice. The 12 tables are carved in bronze, placed where all can see them. No man, not even a consul, stands above the law. The people gather to read the letters by torchlight, tracing them with their fingers, as though touching the pulse of their newborn republic. But equality is never perfect. The patricians, noble families of ancient name, still hold the reins. The plebeians, common and weary, find themselves fighting not for survival, but for recognition. They leave the city once, in protest, refusing to work or fight, until their voices are heard. The city trembles without them. Grain spoils. Markets fall silent. In that stillness, Rome learns its second great truth. Power cannot stand without the many. When the plebeians return, they bring with them the office of the tribune, guardians of the people, armed not with swords, but with the sacred word, veto. No law may pass without their consent. The Republic learns balance through tension, stability through argument. Years turn into decades. The streets harden beneath layers of stone. Aqueducts bring cold mountain water into the city, whispering through the arches like a hidden river. Blacksmiths' hammers ring from dawn to dusk. The smell of olive oil, wet wool, and bronze fills the air. Rome is not yet the center of the world, but you can feel the gravity forming. Beyond the walls, Italy stirs. The Latin tribes, the Etruscans, the Samnites, all test Rome's resolve. Wars flicker and fade like brush fires. Victories come at great cost, but each one adds another thread to the tapestry of the Republic. The legions, once simple militias of farmers, become disciplined machines. Each soldier learns to march to the beat of the drum, to carry his shield as though it were part of his body. You can almost hear it, the steady rhythm of feet upon the road, the soft creak of leather straps, the breath of men bound by oath and pride. When they return from campaign, the city greets them not with wild celebration, but with solemn ritual. The general climbs the Capitoline Hill in triumph, his face painted red like the god Jupiter's. Behind him, the spoils of war shimmer in the sun, gold, statues, and trembling prisoners. Yet even in glory, the Senate debates. Each victory invites jealousy. Each general's triumph whispers of ambition. Rome's greatest strength, its structure, hides its greatest weakness, the hunger of men who learn to command. Still, the Republic endures. New roads snake through mountains and valleys, binding the peninsula like veins. Farmers become citizens of a wider world. The Latin language spreads like sunlight, carried on the breath of merchants and soldiers. At night, in the flicker of oil lamps, poets begin to sing of destiny. There are moments of calm, seasons when the fields bloom and the markets hum, but the quiet never lasts long. Rome is already too large for peace, too proud for humility. As you imagine the city at dusk, the Tiber glows copper beneath the setting sun. The temples shimmer, smoke curls from the hearths of 1,000 homes. Somewhere in the forum, 2 senators argue over law, unaware that their voices echo into centuries yet to come. The Republic has awoken, proud, divided, and alive. From this fragile balance will come both its triumph and its ruin. But for now, under the soft hum of evening, Rome stands, not as a monarchy or an empire, but as an idea carried on human breath. Part 4, Legions and Grain. Morning comes softly over the 7 hills. The smoke of countless hearths rises into a sky pale as stone. The Republic is no longer a fragile promise. It has muscle now, an appetite. Fields stretch outward from the city like veins from a heart. The rhythm of Roman life is measured by grain, sowing, harvest, tribute. The scent of olive oil and dust clings to everything. The Tiber's slow current carries barges piled high with wheat and amphorae. Rome is growing, and growth demands order. The Senate debates in measured tones, their words carried on the air like slow bells. They speak of allies and enemies, of taxes and treaties. Beyond the walls, the land is restless. The Etruscans to the north, the Samnites in the rugged hills, the Greeks in their coastal colonies. Each watches Rome's rise with wary eyes. Each feels the weight of her ambition. The legions march out, not yet the vast imperial machine of later centuries, but disciplined, unyielding, citizen soldiers, farmers in armor, leaving plows for spears. They carry the standards of their tribes, the scent of iron and sweat following them like a ghost. They move with rhythm, shields striking in unison, sandals crunching gravel, voices chanting oaths beneath the morning sun. In their wake, roads form, rough tracks at first, beaten flat by countless feet. But soon engineers follow, measuring, aligning, laying stones with obsessive precision. Every road leads not yet to empire, but to Rome itself, to the place where decisions are made and destinies weighed. War teaches the Republic who it is. Each campaign sharpens it, like a blade honed against stone. The Latin League falls under her influence. The Etruscans bow. The Samnites resist fiercely, their mountain passes echoing with the clash of shields and the hiss of javelins. But even they are broken in time. Each victory binds Italy tighter to Rome's will. Citizens and allies become threads of a single fabric, woven by law and blood. Back in the city, triumphs bloom like brief storms. The general rides through the gates in a chariot, his face painted red with vermilion, symbol of Jupiter himself. Behind him, prisoners shuffle, their chains clinking softly. Musicians play, incense clouds the air. Children climb fountains to watch as the spoils of war pass by. Bronze helmets, golden cups, grain from conquered lands. For a day, Rome remembers joy. Then, as evening falls, the streets empty. Torches flicker along the forum. The triumph ends, and the general descends from his chariot. A slave whispers behind him, "Remember, you are mortal." Even glory has its limits. The Republic thrives on this rhythm. Work, war, law, harvest. Senators debate while farmers till the soil. Grain from the conquered lands feeds the growing population. Markets bustle beneath awnings of red and gold. Bakers pull steaming loaves from clay ovens. Potters shape amphorae marked with family seals. Rome is no longer a village. It is an organism pulsing with trade, faith, and ambition. And yet, beneath this calm surface, tension grows. The balance between rich and poor wavers. Land concentrates in the hands of the powerful. Veterans return to find their fields lost, their labor replaced by slaves taken in conquest. The forum fills with voices, proud, angry, pleading. Tribunes try to soothe them, to restore what has been taken. But the Republic's appetite is endless, and its own success begins to strain it. Still, Rome endures. It builds not only with stone, but with belief. The conviction that discipline and order can master chaos. To a Roman, the plow and the sword are one and the same. Both carve the earth, both yield sustenance. The farmer feeds the city, the soldier protects it, the Senate guides it, and the gods, distant but ever watching, bless it, or at least do not destroy it. At dusk, you can picture the city from the Aventine Hill. The sound of the Tiber murmurs below. The sun spills gold across the tiled roofs. Bells ring from temples. Somewhere, a family gathers around their small fire, breaking bread baked from Sicilian grain. Grain carried on ships across the sea, guarded by legions whose shields still bear the dust of the southern fields. Rome's destiny, still unseen, grows out of this union of soil and steel, a republic built on order, fueled by expansion, and quietly, almost unknowingly, preparing for the day when no land would remain to conquer without tearing itself apart. The night falls gently over the 7 hills. The fires burn low. Tomorrow, the Senate will meet again, and the legions will march once more. Farther this time, and faster. For the world is beginning to turn around Rome, and Rome, though unaware, is already dreaming of empire. Part 5. Across the western seas. The air above the forum hums with the noise of traders and orators, but beyond the hills, beyond the horizon of olive groves, lies something new. The sea. The Republic, having bound Italy beneath its law, now turns outward. The scent of salt begins to mingle with that of earth and grain. Ships are built in secret bays. Oaths are spoken to Neptune. Rome, the land-born power, is learning to breathe the wind. Across the western sea lies Carthage, her twin in ambition, her opposite in soul. A city of merchants, masters of the waves, their harbors filled with purple sails and the cry of gulls. To the Romans, Carthage is both envy and warning, a mirror reflecting what they might one day become. The first clash comes over Sicily, that island of wheat and smoke. The Punic Wars begin, slow, grinding, relentless. At first Rome stumbles, unskilled in naval war. Ships capsize, storms claim fleets, and sailors are swallowed by the deep. But Rome does not break. The engineers, ever patient, study the enemy's strength and build upon it. They create the corvus, a wooden bridge that turns sea battle into land battle. When their ships grapple Carthaginian vessels, legionaries pour across the planks, turning the waves into a battlefield of discipline and blood. You can almost hear it, the creak of ropes, the crash of rams, the shouts in Latin and Punic mixing with the roar of the sea. Victory comes slowly, like dawn through fog. Sicily falls, then Sardinia, then Corsica. Rome tastes salt and triumph, and both become addictive. But Carthage does not sleep. In Africa, she rebuilds, and one man rises above her walls, Hannibal Barca. With a mind like iron and eyes cold as bronze, he swears to destroy Rome not from the sea, but from the mountains. His army is a storm of nations, Numidians, Iberians, Gauls, elephants from the deserts of Libya. They march north through the Alps, snow falling thick on tusks and armor. The mountains groan beneath their weight. Men freeze, beasts stumble, but the army endures. Then, one gray morning, they descend into Italy like ghosts. The fields of the Republic, so long unchallenged, burn for the first time in generations. At Trebia, at Trasimene, at Cannae, Hannibal's brilliance turns the legions into dust. The Tiber runs red, Rome wavers but does not yield. The Senate refuses peace. No walls are abandoned, no words of surrender spoken. We will fight until we are ash, they say, and they mean it. In the city, mothers send their sons to the front, priests pray before Vesta's flame, and slaves forge spears in secret. The Republic becomes a single will, carved from grief. The young commander Scipio rises from this crucible, calm, thoughtful, carrying the wisdom of patience. He sails to Africa, to the very gates of Carthage, turning the tide with quiet precision. At Zama, beneath the wide African sky, two worlds meet. Hannibal's elephants charge, but Roman trumpets sound, and the beasts break apart. Dust fills the air. When it clears, Carthage lies broken. Hannibal rides into exile, his dreams fading like smoke over the desert. Rome stands again, scarred, unbowed, and changed. The victories have made it something new. Its fleets rule the western sea. Its senators speak not of survival, but of destiny. Back home, the city swells with spoils. Gold from Sicily, slaves from Spain, art from Greece. The markets overflow, the temples shine. But beneath the marble and laughter, the old simplicity is gone. Wealth divides the citizens. Farmers return to find their fields, lost to estates, worked by slaves. The Republic begins to bend beneath its own weight. At night, the Tiber carries whispers of debt, of corruption, of bread bought with loyalty. Yet still, torches flicker on the Palatine, and the sound of the sea lingers in the dreams of Rome's people. The Republic has learned to conquer oceans, but not itself. And so, as the stars shimmer over the Mediterranean, you can almost feel the pull of something vast and unstoppable, the tide of empire, rising quietly in the dark. Part 6. The Republic Trembles. The victory over Carthage should have brought peace. Instead, it brought silence, the kind that follows a storm too large to measure. The Republic stands taller than ever, but its foundations begin to shift. The legions have returned from distant lands with gold, slaves, and scars. The Senate hall gleams with new marble, yet the air feels colder. Rome, once built on duty and simplicity, now dreams of wealth and dominion. Across the hills, the countryside changes. The old family farms, small, proud, self-sustaining, vanish one by one. Vast estates rise in their place, worked by slaves brought from Spain, Greece, and Africa. The soil is the same, but the hands that touch it are not Roman. The peasants drift to the city, seeking work, food, or hope. They find none of these. The streets fill with beggars and veterans, men who once marched beneath the eagles of the legions, now sleeping beside the temples they fought to protect. The city hums restlessly. Bread is rationed. Voices rise in anger. The Senate debates, but its words mean little beyond its walls. For the first time, the Republic's strength feels fragile, not because of enemies abroad, but because of imbalance within. Then, from this tension, two brothers step forward, Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus. They are young, eloquent, idealistic, tribunes of the people, sons of old honor. They speak of reform, of returning land to those who lost it, of restoring balance to a world bending under greed. Crowds gather to hear them. The air in the forum trembles with possibility. But idealism is dangerous in a city addicted to power. The Senate watches them with suspicion, fearing not their policies, but their popularity. When Tiberius presses too hard, the nobles strike, clubs rise in the forum, he falls beneath them. Years later, his brother Gaius follows the same path, brave, determined, and doomed. His final words fade into the Tiber, carried away with the blood of another generation's hope. Rome learns that reform will not come from speeches, it will come from force. Into this vacuum steps Gaius Marius, a soldier of humble birth, brilliant in war, ruthless in ambition. He reforms the army, opening its ranks to the poor. The legions no longer fight for the Republic, they fight for their commander. Loyalty shifts from the Senate's marble halls to the man who feeds and pays them. The Republic begins to turn upon itself. The smell of dust and iron fills the air once more. Civil wars erupt like summer storms. Lucius Cornelius Sulla marches his army into Rome, something no Roman has ever dared. The streets that once echoed with oratory now echo with screams. Statues are torn down. Lists of enemies are posted on temple doors. The proscription begins, a word that means death written politely in ink. When Sulla finally lays down his power, he claims to restore the Republic. But the people know the truth. The Senate bows to whoever commands the legions. The Constitution still stands, but it has become a shadow, elegant, hollow, and trembling. At night, the city's lights flicker against the river. The old gods watch in silence as ambition replaces faith. The Forum, once the heart of civic pride, feels heavier, its stones bearing the memory of too many bodies. The Republic survives, but its spirit falters. And yet, even in this darkness, Rome continues to create. New roads cross mountains, new laws refine justice. Poets write of virtue, generals dream of glory. The city endures through contradiction, moral decay and artistic brilliance intertwined like vines around the same pillar. In the quiet before dawn, the Tiber flows as it always has. Its surface reflects the stars and the faint light of torches burning through the night. The Republic trembles, but it does not yet fall. Somewhere beyond the horizon, a young general sharpens his blade, believing he can save Rome or own it. The age of dictators is coming. The air tastes of iron and prophecy. Part 7, Caesar and the Rubicon dawn, spills over the Alps like liquid bronze. The world feels suspended, poised between order and upheaval. Rome still calls itself a republic, but it breathes like an empire already born. The Senate clings to tradition, the legions to their generals, and the people to whoever promises bread. Out of this uneasy balance steps one man whose name will become the measure of power itself, Gaius Julius Caesar. He is both patrician and populist, soldier and poet, ruthless and charming. To his followers, he is destiny in human form. To his enemies, he is ambition sharpened to a blade. When he speaks in the forum, even the marble seems to listen. He dreams not in years, but in centuries. The wars in Gaul forge him. For nearly a decade, he marches across forests and rivers unknown to Roman maps, against tribes fierce and proud, under skies cold as iron. He builds bridges over raging waters, carves roads through wilderness, writes by lamplight in his tent as the rain drums softly above him. His words, veni, vidi, vici, become both boast and prophecy. Each victory adds weight to his legend. Gold flows into the treasury, slaves and tribute follow. The Senate praises him in public, but fears him in private. Pompey, once his ally, becomes his rival. Behind polite decrees, both sides prepare for war. The Republic, already hollow, becomes an arena for giants. Then comes the winter of decision. The Senate orders Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome as a private man. But to return without his legions would be to walk unarmed into his enemy's embrace. The choice before him is simple: surrender or defiance. On a cold January night in 49 BC, Caesar reaches the Rubicon, a narrow river marking the northern boundary of Italy. He halts. The water glimmers under a sickle moon. His men wait in silence. Then softly, he whispers words that will echo through every throne room for millennia. Alea iacta est. The die is cast. He crosses. The act is treason, yet it feels like fate. Rome wakes to the sound of marching feet. The Senate flees. The old republic shatters like glass underfoot. Civil war unfolds, swift, brutal, inevitable. At Pharsalus, beneath a storm-gray sky, Caesar's legions crush Pompey's. The great rival flees to Egypt, seeking refuge. There, he is murdered before Caesar arrives, his head offered as a gift. Caesar weeps, not for Pompey alone, but for the end of what they once shared. In Egypt, history turns intimate. Cleopatra rises from the Nile like a vision, clever, radiant, serpentine. Together they drift down the river on golden barges, the scent of lotus and oil thick in the air. Two worlds meet in her gaze, the ancient and the new. She bears him a son, but Caesar's home is still Rome, and Rome cannot yet love a king. When he returns, the city greets him with thunder. Triumphal arches bloom like marble flowers. Crowds chant his name as petals fall from balconies. But power isolates. The Senate honors him with titles that sound like prayers. Father of the fatherland, dictator for life. Statues rise, coins bear his image. In the shadows, envy gathers. The Ides of March, 44 BC. The air smells faintly of rain. Caesar walks through the Curia, his toga brushed by whispers. A circle forms around him. Blades flash. The marble floor darkens. He falls beneath the statue of Pompey, the man he once defeated, now his silent witness. His last breath carries the weight of centuries to come. For a heartbeat, the Republic believes it has saved itself. But outside, the crowd wails. In every echo, something shifts. The city that killed its savior cannot unmake his legend. His blood becomes prophecy. By nightfall, torches flare along the Tiber. The conspirators hide. The people riot. The flame of the Republic, already flickering, dims beneath the storm. And somewhere, in a quiet room, a young heir named Octavian watches the smoke drift through the window and listens to the dying heartbeat of an old world he will soon inherit. Part 8. Augustus and the Golden Peace Night lingers over Rome, soft and watchful. The Republic is gone, though few dare to say it aloud. In the ruins of civil war, one man gathers the fragments and shapes them into something that looks like order. His name is Octavian, the adopted son of Caesar, young, patient, deliberate. The world will come to know him by another name, Augustus. The city he inherits is tired. The streets still bear the scars of rebellion. Temples stand half-burned, the Tiber dark with ash. But Augustus does not rule through terror. He rules through exhaustion, through the quiet relief of people who want the fighting to stop. He speaks softly, moves carefully, and rebuilds everything, from the Senate's dignity to the city's stones. He is both restorer and inventor. He claims to revive the Republic while weaving his own monarchy within it, veiled in ritual and law. The Senate keeps its marble benches, its speeches, its ceremonies, but behind them, every decision bends toward one man. Power has found a new shape, invisible, absolute, serene. The people adore him. He repairs temples, reforms taxes, rewards veterans, and opens grain distributions. He raises statues of peace rather than conquest. The Ara passes, the altar of peace, glows in the sunlight, carved with vines and mothers and the faces of prosperity. In its silence, one can almost hear the hum of contentment. This is the Pax Romana, the great peace. For the first time in memory, the legions rest. The frontiers are watched but quiet. Roads stretch like veins from the capital to every province, from the misty forests of Gaul to the golden deserts of Egypt. Couriers ride day and night. A letter from the emperor can reach the farthest garrison before the moon has waned. The empire moves with a heartbeat that never stops. Augustus understands symbolism. He rebuilds Rome in marble as he once promised. He restores ancient rituals, honors the gods, and yet gently replaces them with the worship of himself, not as a man, but as the living soul of Rome. The poets help him. Virgil writes of Aeneas, the pious founder, guided by fate. In his verses, Augustus becomes Aeneas reborn, destiny fulfilled. Ovid sings of love, of myth, of the strange beauty of transformation, until his tongue proves too playful, and exile silences him by imperial command. The city glows in the evenings. The marble catches the sunset, turning gold and rose. Fountains sparkle in the courtyards. At the theater, actors wear masks of gods and heroes. Their voices carry through the warm air. Merchants sell figs and olives beneath colonnades. Children play with carved toys while their mothers whisper prayers to Vesta. Rome feels eternal, as if the struggles of the past were only storms before this endless calm. And yet, even peace has its shadow. The Senate bows too easily. The people grow dependent on bread and spectacle. Soldiers swear loyalty not to the state, but to the emperor's image. The system that once thrived on shared power now flows through a single heart. When that heart falters, so will the world it sustains. Augustus grows old surrounded by marble, poetry, and memory. He eats little, sleeps lightly, works endlessly. He walks the gardens of his palace in the evenings, touching the leaves as if counting the years. Beside him walks Livia, calm and inscrutable. They speak softly of the future, of succession, of the fragile art of control. One night, in the still air of Nola, his voice fades. His last words, gentle and half smiling, drift like incense through the centuries. Have I played my part well? Then applaud. The curtain falls, but the stage remains. The empire he built stretches farther than imagination. It glows under torchlight and moonlight, both real and mythic. In his death, Rome learns what it has become. No longer a republic of men, but a realm of marble and memory, ruled by the idea of one perfect order. The streets grow quiet again. The statues gleam in the dawn. Augustus is gone, but his peace endures, vast, delicate, deceptive. Beneath its surface, ambition sleeps, dreaming of crowns yet to come. Part 9. Palaces of Power. The empire awakes beneath a pale dawn. Augustus is gone, but his shadow stretches across every marble floor. The citizens whisper his name as though it were a prayer. His heirs step into the silence, awkwardly, uncertainly, each believing he can fill the space left by the founder. The marble glows, the temples shine, yet beneath the brilliance lies unease. The peace that once felt divine now depends on the moods of men born into power, but not always worthy of it. Tiberius, the reluctant heir, rules first. He is cautious, intelligent, weary of flattery. He tightens the state like a fist, efficient, cold, and silent. In Capri's rocky isolation, he watches the empire through letters and spies. The Senate obeys from fear, not reverence. The people grow restless. Rumors travel faster than ships, telling stories of excess and cruelty. But the empire holds, held together by inertia and habit. Rome has learned to survive even loveless masters. Then, like lightning through calm sky, comes Caligula, young, adored, and unpredictable. At first the people cheer him. He speaks with warmth, gives games, frees prisoners. But the sweetness curdles. Power intoxicates him. He builds statues of himself in temples, whispers that he is a god, and turns ceremony into madness. The palace becomes a stage for whims, senators forced to run beside his chariot, feasts held on floating barges, treasure squandered in the name of divinity. When the Praetorian Guard finally strikes him down, the city exhales as if released from a fever. His uncle Claudius, stammering and thoughtful, emerges from the chaos. Few expect him to rule, yet he governs wisely. He expands the empire to Britain, that misty island at the edge of the known world. Roman standards rise over green hills where druids chant beneath oaks. Roads cut through forests. Latin words mingle with Celtic prayers. Claudius builds aqueducts, reforms administration, and hides his shyness behind relentless work. But even he cannot escape the palace's shadow. Intrigue blooms in marble corridors. Whispers of poison drift through the halls. When he dies, many suspect the hand of his ambitious wife, Agrippina, guiding fate toward her son, Nero. The name still carries the scent of smoke. At first, he rules with promise. He loves art, poetry, performance. He dreams not of conquest, but of beauty. The young emperor plays the lyre at midnight, his voice echoing across moonlit courtyards. Yet art cannot save him from himself. The court around him decays into indulgence. His paranoia grows. Enemies real and imagined fall in quiet executions. Even his mother, death, her shipwreck orchestrated by his command, cannot quiet his fears. Then comes the fire, the night of 64 AD. Flames leap through the wooden city, devouring streets, temples, and homes. The air glows crimson. The screams of thousands mingle with the roar of wind-fed inferno. Nero watches from his palace on the Palatine, the legend says, singing of Troy as Rome burns. Whether true or not, the image endures, the emperor as artist of ruin. When the ashes cool, he rebuilds. The Domus Aurea, the golden house, rises where the poor once lived, a palace of marble. And gold leaf, fountains, and artificial lakes. Its ceilings shimmer with jewels. The scent of incense and cedar fills its halls. To some, it is glory. To others, blasphemy. The Senate turns against him. The legions rebel, and Nero flees. Alone, trembling, he takes his own life with the whispered lament, "What an artist dies in me." The line of Augustus ends with him. The marble piece cracks. But from the cracks, new faces emerge, generals rather than princes, chosen by the will of soldiers, not blood. Galba, Otho, Vitellius, 3 emperors rise and fall within a single year, their reigns shorter than the echo of their names. The empire quivers, yet it does not collapse, for Rome has become larger than any ruler. Its laws, roads, and faith in its own eternity carry it forward like a tide that refuses to ebb. When Vespasian, a soldier of modest origin, finally brings stability, the people sigh with relief. The palaces still stand, but their meaning has changed. They are no longer symbols of divine kingship, but of endurance, proof that even through madness and flame, the city continues. At night, torchlight flickers over the marble walls of the rebuilt forum. The air smells of ash and rain. Somewhere, a mason smooths a new block of stone. The empire breathes again, scarred, older, wiser, still beautiful in its exhaustion. Part 10. Empire without end. Dawn rises on a city convinced of its own eternity. The age of Julio-Claudian excess has passed, and in its place stands something steadier, less theatrical, yet vast beyond imagining. Vespasian and his sons restore order. Where Nero's golden palace sprawled, they raise an amphitheater of stone for the people, the Flavian amphitheater, which the world will call the Colosseum. Its arches catch the morning light, its corridors smell of dust, sweat, and iron. Above it all, Rome breathes with quiet satisfaction, as if it has survived a fever and woken stronger. The empire now stretches like a great ring around the Mediterranean, a Roman lake fringed with forts, ports, and warehouses. From Britannia's grey cliffs to the sands of Syria, from the vineyards of Gaul to the Nile's slow glitter, one law, one coin, and one distant emperor bind millions of lives together. On the roads, you hear Latin mingled with Greek, Punic, Celtic, Egyptian, tongues layered like frescoes, all held beneath the same steady eagle. Under emperors like Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, a rhythm of competent rule settles over the provinces. Trajan, tall and tireless, rides at the frontiers, pushing Rome to its greatest borders. His armies cross the Danube on massive bridges, carve paths into Dacia's dark hills, bring home gold that brightens temples and baths. In Spain, olive groves shimmer. In North Africa, granaries swell with wheat. In Asia Minor, marble cities glow with colonnades and theaters. Hadrian, wandering and meticulous, walks the lines of his world like a gardener. Where Trajan spread outward, he closes and defines. In distant Britannia, he orders a wall, stone and turf, stretching from sea to sea, cutting through mist and heather. The soldiers who garrison it feel the wet wind on their faces, taste the smoke of peat fires, watch unknown figures move beyond the line. They etch their names into stone, small acts of immortality at the edge of empire. Inside, Rome refines its comforts. Public baths steam with fragrant water. Mosaics glitter beneath bare feet. Libraries hold scrolls of philosophy, law, and drama. Jurists shape principles that will outlive the emperors who commissioned them. The law becomes Rome's quiet masterpiece, measured, reasoned, reaching into households and markets with invisible threads. In crowded insulae, tenants feel its weight. In marble villas, landlords invoke its clauses. Religion, too, is a tapestry. Old gods endure. Jupiter on his high throne, Mars with blood-bright spear, Venus smiling in scented shrines. Eastern cults arrive with drums and incense. Isis from Egypt, Mithras from Persia, strange mysteries whispered in lamplit chambers beneath the streets. People seek meaning in many directions, yet all within a world that assumes Rome itself is the stage upon which eternity performs. Walk the city at twilight, and you can sense the illusion of permanence. The Colosseum's arches glow like a crown of embers. The Forum murmurs with late bargains. Fountains catch the last light, their water smelling faintly of stone and sky. Senators in white togas pass under porticos. Scribes carry wax tablets. Bakers pull final loaves from hot ovens. It feels as though nothing can unmake this order, as if the empire is less a state than a season that will never end. Yet beneath this calm, hairline fractures spread. Some emperors are wise, others are cruel, vain, or absent. The Praetorian Guard, meant to protect, now measures rulers like merchants weigh grain. Armies on distant frontiers remember that their loyalty, once given to the Senate and people of Rome, can be redirected to a single man who promises donatives and glory. Power drifts toward the camps. For now, the facade holds. The Antonine age smiles gently, like a statue with uncracked features. Marcus Aurelius, philosopher emperor, writes by lamplight in a damp campaign tent, his fingers cold, his heart tired. He urges himself to patience, to virtue, to acceptance of fate. His words float above centuries, a soft voice from within mailed armor. But even as he writes, plague creeps along the trade routes, carried in on breath and cloth, fields thin, streets quiet. The empire shivers, only slightly, like a sleeper who turns on his side, but does not yet wake. Rome still believes itself endless. For this brief moment, under golden dusk and measured law, it almost seems true. Provincial towns flourish in Rome's image. Forums and baths mirror the capital's calm. Milestones mark the roads with quiet certainty. Couriers ride with sealed tablets. Bridges and arches stitch valleys and rivers into one design. In legionary camps, soldiers light their fires in perfect rows, voices merging in oaths for a distant emperor. Children play beneath triumphal arches, never doubting the stone above them. Oil lamps burn in painted rooms, casting halos on ceilings of vines and birds, as families share bread and stories beneath a net of laws they scarcely see. Yet patterns fray, first where they are stretched thinnest. On far frontiers, tribes watch Roman walls with patient eyes, and in hidden corners, new faiths whisper of other kingdoms. For now, the empire rests beneath a quiet sky, certain its order endures. Part 11. Faith beneath the arches. The marble glows in the sunlight, but the hearts of men begin to turn toward shadows. Rome's gods still rule the temples, Jupiter on the Capitol, Vesta's flame guarded by her maidens, yet the certainty that once filled those altars begins to fade. In the alleys and catacombs, a new whisper moves through the air. Faith in one God, unseen and eternal. The empire, once bound by law and road, now feels another thread weaving quietly beneath its arches. At first, it seems harmless, a movement of slaves, widows, foreigners. They gather in silence, lighting lamps in underground chambers, breaking bread, calling one another brother and sister. The scent of oil and candle smoke mixes with whispered prayers. Above them, the city continues its routines. Baths, steaming, forums shouting, soldiers marching, unaware that its soul is slowly changing shape. Persecution comes not from cruelty alone, but from confusion. The old gods are civic. They protect the state when honored properly. To neglect them is to endanger the city. So when fires burn or plagues spread, suspicion follows the Christians. Some are thrown to beasts in the amphitheater, their hymns rising above the roar. Others are crucified along the roads they once traveled freely. Yet the faith endures, carried from mouth to mouth like a secret flame. In the quiet of the catacombs, frescoes bloom on damp stone, fish, doves, shepherds, symbols of hope, not defiance. A young mother traces a cross on the wall with trembling fingers before her arrest. A soldier hides a small piece of scripture beneath his armor. The empire, for all its might, cannot extinguish what it does not understand. Beyond religion, other cracks spread. The economy wavers. Plague revisits the cities. Fields lie fallow. In the north, tribes gather like storms beyond the Rhine and Danube. The emperors change with dizzying speed, some noble, some cruel, many forgotten. The legions still march, but their victories feel smaller, their loyalty thinner. The empire's vast body trembles, unsure where its heart lies. Yet even in its fatigue, Rome remains magnificent. In the baths of Caracalla, the water still flows warm from hidden furnaces. Mosaics shimmer beneath vaulted ceilings. Marble pillars reflect torchlight. Citizens stroll beneath colonnades, discussing philosophy, law, and rumor. They live as though the empire will last forever, as though the ground beneath their sandals is not already shifting. Then comes Diocletian, a soldier's emperor, pragmatic, disciplined. He divides power among 4 rulers, hoping that 4 hands might steady the trembling colossus. His reforms bring order, but also fear. He hunts the Christians with precision, believing unity requires a single faith. Jails overflow, temples blaze with sacrifice, yet the new religion refuses to die. When Diocletian abdicates and retires to his palace in Dalmatia, tending his gardens, he leaves behind a world both restored and unstable, a mosaic repaired, but with visible cracks. As the 4th century dawns, the empire stands between two suns, the old and the new. The temples still smoke with incense, but cathedrals rise quietly nearby. Soldiers still salute the eagle, but some trace the cross upon their chests. The roads that once carried armies now carry missionaries. The empire's heart beats to two rhythms at once. Walk the streets at dusk, and you can feel it. Statues staring with hollow eyes, their gods forgotten. Children whispering new prayers. Old men clutching charms of Jupiter beside crosses carved from olive wood. Rome is not yet Christian, but it is no longer pagan. It lingers in twilight, that long golden hour between faiths, when the sky still glows even as the sun descends. In this hour, beneath domes and arches, something unseen stirs. Not rebellion, not empire, but belief. A new empire of the spirit, rising from within the marble one. And as the lamps flicker in the catacombs, one truth settles quietly into the Roman night. Even stone can learn to pray. Part 12. The cracks in marble. The golden calm of empire begins to dull. The marble, once pure and blinding, shows hairline fractures that catch the dusk. What began as a whisper now sounds like the groan of something immense shifting its weight. Rome still calls itself eternal, but eternity has grown tired. The streets are the same, the baths still warm, yet beneath the rhythm of daily life, unease coils like smoke under stone. The 3rd century brings storms, not one but many, overlapping like waves. Emperors rise and fall with dizzying speed. Some reign only weeks before swords find them. Soldiers, not senators, now decide the fate of the world. Along the frontiers, the barbarians, Goths, Alemanni, Franks, Persians, press harder. The legions fight bravely, but their loyalty bends toward whoever pays them. Gold flows faster than courage. Taxes grow heavier than law. Famine creeps in. The Nile floods irregularly. Crops fail in the provinces. In the cities, the poor multiply, and the old Roman virtue, that hard, clean pride of self-discipline, turns to hunger and fear. In the taverns, people talk of omens, eclipses, fires, earthquakes. The gods, they say, are leaving. The economy twists into strange shapes. Silver coins grow lighter, then hollow. Debasement becomes policy. Markets fluctuate. Soldiers demand raises that the treasury cannot sustain. Bureaucracy swells to fill the gap. Clerks, auditors, tax collectors, more ink than grain. Each decree feels like a stone added to an already sinking ship. Still, the empire endures through habit and scale. Great cities glitter even in decline. Alexandria's libraries hum with scholars. Antioch's streets gleam with marble and perfume. Rome itself, enormous and weary, glows in evening light like an old lion. Public games continue. The amphitheaters echo with cheers that sound more desperate than joyous. Bread and spectacle remain the twin lungs of survival. Faith, meanwhile, changes the rhythm of thought. Christianity, once hunted, now spreads openly, defying centuries of tradition. Converts fill the streets, yet so do skeptics. Families divide, temples empty. Old priests mutter prayers into air that no longer listens. The city's heart beats irregularly, two faiths sharing one body. When the plague returns, the Cyprian plague, they call it, the streets empty again. Smoke from funeral pyres mixes with the smell of incense. Whole cohorts vanish. The empire feels smaller each year, and yet, out of misery, resilience grows. Bishops care for the sick when magistrates flee. Communities form around compassion, not command. Something fragile yet indestructible begins to replace the old order. Aurelian, stern and swift, brings a brief sunrise. He rides the length of the empire, beating back invaders, reuniting lost provinces, surrounding Rome with mighty new walls. His soldiers call him Restitutor Orbis, restorer of the world. For a moment, hope returns, but after his death, the pattern resumes, strength followed by collapse, restoration followed by ruin. The empire has learned to survive crisis by never fully healing. In this long twilight, the art changes too. Mosaics grow darker, flatter, more symbolic. Faces no longer seek realism, they seek eternity. Stone loses warmth. Eyes gaze upward rather than outward. The empire that once celebrated flesh now hungers for spirit. Even its beauty becomes prayer. And then a new hand steadies the wheel. Diocletian, disciplined and austere. He divides the empire between east and west, between four rulers, the tetrarchy. It is a practical miracle. Administration becomes regional, efficient, almost modern. The borders hold, taxes stabilize, and for a fleeting generation, order seems possible again. But the cost is faith in the old singular Rome. The empire no longer beats with one heart. It breathes through four lungs that do not trust one another. When Diocletian retires, the experiment falters. Rivalries ignite, alliances crumble. Constantine rises from the chaos, young, ruthless, visionary, but his time belongs to the next chapter. For now, the marble still stands, though cracks widen beneath the varnish. You can see them if you walk through the forum at dusk, a chipped column, an empty niche where a statue once stood, grass pushing through paving stones. The city is not dead, only older, remembering what it once promised the world. Above the ruins, the evening bells ring from Christian chapels, mingling with the last sacrifices of the old gods. The smoke curls upward together, gray and gold, like two prayers sharing a single sky. The empire listens but cannot decide which to answer. Rome remains magnificent, but its eternity has changed meaning. No longer the eternity of marble, but of memory, fragile, luminous, enduring only because it refuses to fade. The cracks are not just in the walls, they are in the dream itself. Part 13. Constantine's Vision. Dawn breaks over a battlefield soaked in fog. Two armies face one another near the Tiber, the banners of rival emperors fluttering like torn prayers. In the western ranks stands Constantine, ambitious, calculating, haunted by the weight of empire. For years, the Roman world has been divided, its rulers devouring one another like wolves. Now, beneath this gray sky, the cycle will end. The night before the battle, legend says he looks upward and sees a sign, a cross of light above the sun, a voice whispering, "In this sign, conquer." Whether vision or dream, it marks him forever. His soldiers paint the new symbol, the Chi-Rho, upon their shields, a strange defiance of the old gods. At dawn, they charge. Swords flash, hooves strike mud, and the air fills with cries and steel. By evening, his rival lies dead in the river's current. Constantine enters Rome not as conqueror alone, but as chosen vessel. The Senate greets him with weary gratitude. The city, exhausted by decades of war, bends to him as if to a long-awaited peace. Yet something has shifted more profound than politics. For the first time, the empire bows to a god who died nailed to wood. He acts not with the fury of zeal, but with the cold precision of a ruler shaping eternity. In 313, he issues the Edict of Milan, a thin sheet of parchment that alters history. It grants tolerance to all faiths, ending centuries of persecution. Churches rise beside temples, bishops walk openly through marble streets. The Christian cross, once hidden in catacombs, now gleams on soldiers' standards. In the east, he founds a new city, not as successor to Rome, but as mirror. Constantinople, city of Constantine. It rises on the Bosporus where Europe meets Asia, its walls pale as ivory, its domes glittering with gold. He fills it with sculptures, libraries, and relics, the bones of saints beside the statues of philosophers. It smells of myrrh and salt, of parchment and stone dust. There, the emperor dreams of uniting heaven and empire, spirit and law. Rome itself grows older in his absence. Its temples decay, their priests thinning like smoke. The Senate debates ritual more than policy. The Forum becomes a museum of ghosts. Constantine rules from the east now, but his authority lingers in every decree. He replaces the gods of lineage with the god of resurrection. The empire begins to pray in new words, under new skies. Yet his world is not wholly peaceful. His family bleeds with intrigue. His sons quarrel even before his death. The empire remains vast and hungry, but the tone of its ambition changes. Conquest now carries moral purpose, power cloaked in salvation. Constantine's soldiers carry crosses into battle. His coins bear both sun and Christ, symbols entwined like night and dawn. When he dies in 337, the emperor is baptized on his deathbed, a gesture both spiritual and political. His body lies beneath a church he built himself, surrounded by 12 empty sarcophagi symbolizing the apostles. In their silence, marble acknowledges faith's victory over marble. The pagan empire is gone, though its skin remains. The world Constantine leaves behind is both fragile and immense. Christianity now sits in the seat of empire. Bishops debate theology with the authority once reserved for generals. Councils gather to define mysteries, the nature of Christ, the Trinity, the eternal Word. Doctrine becomes law, and law becomes faith. In the marketplaces, people argue over heresies with the same passion their ancestors reserved for chariot races. The empire's unity shifts from geography to belief, its new center not Rome, but wherever the church stands firm. And yet, the spirit of Rome endures within it, the same love of order, the same hunger for universality. At dusk, in the new capital, candles flicker before icons. The air smells of incense and sea wind. Across the water, fishermen haul their nets beneath a red sky. Somewhere in the distance, an old legionary murmurs his prayers in Latin, uncertain to whom he speaks, to Jupiter, to Christ, or to memory itself. The empire of stone has met the empire of the soul, and neither will ever be the same. Part 14. Rome, divided. The empire that once stretched unbroken from desert to sea now drifts apart like slow-moving continents. Constantine's sons inherit his crown, but not his balance. Each claims divine right, each mistrusts the others, and soon the unity their father forged dissolves into civil war. Brother fights, brother beneath banners that all bear the same cross. Blood stains the same altars that promised peace. By the time silence returns, the empire has split along the fault lines of language and light. Latin in the west, Greek in the east. In Constantinople, the domes shine with mosaics of gold. The streets hum with trade and argument. The emperor's court feels eternal, untouched by the dust of history. In Rome, the marble still stands, but the air feels heavier. The aqueducts run, the forums bustle, yet the old capital moves like an aging actor still repeating ancient lines. The Senate survives in ceremony, but real power belongs to generals and bishops. The faith that once united the empire now divides it into interpretations. The West, poor and more exposed, leans on habit. Its armies thin, its frontiers soften. The Rhine and the Danube, once bright borders of discipline, become porous. Germanic tribes press inward, not as enemies alone, but as migrants, traders, settlers seeking warmth within the Roman shell. Some are hired as mercenaries, others cross uninvited. The line between ally and invader blurs in the snow. The East endures with sharper edges. Its wealth flows from Egypt's grain and Asia's silk. Its scholars study Aristotle beside scripture. Its emperors speak of eternity with both pride and fear. The Greek tongue gives the laws new rhythm, smoother and more philosophical. Constantinople becomes a lighthouse of learning, a sanctuary of order surrounded by chaos. Yet it too inherits Rome's fragility, intrigue in the palace, ambition in the army, faith hardened into politics. Meanwhile, in the West, the city of Rome watches itself fade. The temples close, statues are pulled down or baptized with holy water. Bishops become magistrates. The church becomes the spine the state no longer provides. Monks copy scriptures by candlelight, their ink steady as the world around them flickers. The legions that once carried eagles now carry crosses. Outside the walls, storms gather. The Visigoths, driven by hunger and pressure from other tribes, move southward. The Huns, a wave of riders from the steppe, drive them onward. Refugees fill the roads. The empire that once conquered the world cannot feed its own. The treasury empties, the army fragments. Emperors rule for months instead of years, their names forgotten before their statues are finished. Yet even now, Rome's pride refuses surrender. Senators still wear white togas, speak of duty, quote Cicero as though the words could still command legions. Children recite Virgil, not knowing that the world described in his verses already sleeps. The people gather in the baths, though the furnaces burn low. The fountains still pour water, though the aqueduct stones crack. The city performs its eternity even as it ends. In the east, the emperors watch the west decline with pity mixed with relief. They send aid, advisors, prayers, but not armies. Constantinople is too far, its marble walls too precious to risk. Two Romes exist now, one living, one dying, both claiming the same soul. By the late 4th century, the divide is complete. The Emperor Theodosius declares Christianity the sole faith of the empire, closing the last pagan temples. The old gods vanish into memory. Their statues lie face down in gardens. The people no longer swear by Jupiter or Mars. They whisper the names of saints instead. And when Theodosius dies, his sons split the empire for good. Arcadius in the east, Honorius in the west. The world holds its breath. The experiment of universal empire has ended. What remains are two reflections of one dream, the east glittering with theology and silk, the west fading beneath the weight of its own ruins. If you stand on the Palatine Hill at twilight, the horizon glows with the last light of a sun setting over the western sea. Somewhere beyond that red line, ships carry news that the world is changing, tribes moving, kingdoms forming, faith rising where philosophy once reigned. The air smells of dust and incense. The city below still murmurs prayers, but they sound more like elegies. Rome has not fallen yet. It is merely drifting, a vast golden leaf turning slowly in the wind. Part 15. The Fall of the Western World. Morning rises weakly over the 7 hills. The light seems thinner now, diffused through centuries of exhaustion. The air carries no trumpet, no cheer of legionaries, only the murmur of a city living on memory. Rome still stands, but its greatness feels like a ghost draped across stone. The empire in the west is no longer an empire at all, only the shadow of one, stretched thin over broken provinces. The 5th century begins with the sound of footsteps, heavy, endless, foreign. The Visigoths move across the plains of Italy, their wagons creaking, their children wrapped in furs, their warriors silent. They are not invaders in the old sense, but survivors. They have fled the Huns, fled hunger, fled the collapse of the world beyond Rome's borders. They seek safety, and Rome, unable to defend itself, must bargain with them. In 410, under the leadership of Alaric, they reach the city's gates. For the first time in 800 years, Rome is besieged. The senators pray, the churches fill, and the Tiber glimmers with the reflection of torches. Then the gates open, some say by betrayal, others by mercy. The Goths enter. For 3 days, the eternal city burns. Temples crumble, houses collapse, and the shrines of the gods, old and new alike, are looted. The world watches in disbelief. Saint Jerome writes from Bethlehem, "The light of all the earth is extinguished." But the world does not end. It simply changes its shape. The Visigoths move on, seeking new lands, leaving behind ruins and silence. Rome rebuilds, but smaller now, quieter. The Senate still meets, though the marble benches echo more than they once did. The emperors rule from distant Ravenna, safer among marshes than in the city of marble. The empire's borders retreat like a tide that will never return. Gaul becomes a land of Franks, Spain of Visigoths, Africa of Vandals. The map frays at every edge, and still people write, trade, pray, hope. Farmers plant grain in empty villas. Monks in hilltop monasteries copy scrolls by flickering lamps, preserving Cicero beside the Psalms. Life shrinks, but endures. The Roman idea, law, order, discipline, flows underground, waiting for new soil. Then, in 451, the ground trembles again. The Huns arrive, fierce riders from the east, led by Attila, whom men call the Scourge of God. They sweep through Gaul and Italy like wildfire. Cities vanish, fields burn, the air fills with ash. And yet, even now, Rome survives through words more than swords. Pope Leo rides to meet Attila face to face. No army, no weapon, only faith and presence. The king of the Huns turns back, whether from diplomacy, disease, or divine awe, no one knows. But for a moment, the world remembers that Rome's power was never only its legions. The reprieve is brief. The Vandals cross from Africa and sack Rome again in 455. They take what remains of its treasures, gold, bronze, marble. Even the statues seem weary. The Tiber carries fragments of empire to the sea. The Western court, hollow and trembling, continues to issue decrees, each less heeded than the last. The emperor's crown becomes a burden no man can keep for long. By 476, the end arrives quietly, without fanfare. The barbarian general Odoacer, commanding troops who no longer know what Roman means, marches into Ravenna. The emperor Romulus Augustulus, a child with a borrowed name, is deposed. No battle, no slaughter, just an act of inevitability. The boy is sent into exile. The imperial regalia is sent to Constantinople. The message is simple. There is no more emperor in the West. The city of Rome sleeps. The aqueducts break. The baths grow cold. Grass grows between the stones of the Forum. Yet even in ruin, the place retains its gravity. Pilgrims still come. They kneel before the tombs of martyrs, not emperors. The empire of the spirit replaces the empire of law. The cross stands where the eagle once spread its wings. If you walk those streets in the fading light, you can still hear echoes. The clatter of hooves, the murmur of senators, the laughter of markets, the chants of priests. They blend into one long sigh, the breath of a civilization fading into legend. Rome is gone, but not dead. Its language, its roads, its laws, its faith, all continue, scattered like seeds carried by the wind. The Western world will awaken again from these ashes, calling itself by other names, Francia, Italia, Germania. But beneath each kingdom, beneath every cathedral, the stones still whisper Latin prayers. The empire has fallen, but the world it built has only begun. And in that twilight between loss and legacy, the spirit of Rome does what it has always done. It endures. Part 16. Byzantium reborn. The West lies silent, but in the East the empire wakes again. Beyond the Aegean's soft shimmer, beyond the walls of Constantinople, Rome's soul continues, not in Latin, but in Greek, not in marble whiteness, but in mosaics of blue and gold. The people call themselves Romaioi, Romans, and they mean it. The city of Constantine, ringed by water and walls, becomes the lighthouse of a fading world. Its domes catch the sunrise, Its harbors fill with ships from Alexandria, Antioch, and Trebizond. Here, amid the scent of myrrh and salt, the empire takes a second breath. The new Rome is different. It no longer commands the West, but it commands eternity through adaptation. Greek becomes the language of law and prayer. The emperor still reigns by divine will, yet he rules more like a priest than a conqueror. Bureaucrats copy decrees in gilded script. Eunuchs and generals whisper in candlelit corridors. The palace glows with frescoes, its floors of porphyry polished smooth by centuries of footsteps. Outside, markets teem with silks, spices, and laughter. Constantinople is the hinge between two worlds, half ancient, half reborn. In the 6th century, a man of iron and faith takes the throne, Justinian. He dreams not merely of ruling, but of restoration. His goal is audacious, to reunite the Roman world. From dawn until night, he works, drafting laws, building churches, commanding armies. The Corpus Juris Civilis, his great codification of Roman law, distills 1,000 years of legislation into one coherent order. Its Latin words outlast even Latin's fall. Centuries later, they will shape the laws of Europe. Through him, the mind of Rome survives long after her banners fade. Beside him stands Theodora, his equal in brilliance and will. Once an actress, now an empress, she tempers his vision with human strength. During the Nika riots, when the city burns and Justinian falters, she refuses to flee. Purple makes the best burial shroud, she says, and her calm steadies an empire. Soldiers storm the hippodrome, 30,000 rebels die, and Constantinople breathes again. The smoke clears, mosaics are repaired, power reasserts itself beneath the scent of ash. Then, from rubble and grief, Justinian builds beauty that defies time. The Hagia Sophia rises, vast, serene, otherworldly. Its dome floats like a second heaven, its walls shimmer with gold and glass. Step inside, and you feel sound itself transformed. Chants echo like waves, candles flicker on marble veins, dust turns to light. It is not merely a church. It is a declaration that faith can replace empire, that architecture can speak when armies cannot. But conquest still tempts him. His generals, Belisarius in the west, Narses in the south, reclaim lost lands. North Africa, Italy, parts of Spain. For a brief, trembling moment, the Mediterranean gleams Roman again. Yet the victories bleed the treasury dry. Plague follows the soldiers home. The Justinianic plague, sweeping through cities, emptying markets, darkening ports. Half of Constantinople dies. Carts rattle through deserted streets, carrying silence more than bodies. The empire survives, but smaller, scarred. After Justinian, centuries spool like thread through a loom. Invasions, dynasties, recoveries. Persians press from the east, Avars from the north. Arabs rise like a tide of faith and fire. Provinces fall, yet the capital endures, unbroken behind its triple walls. Even when the lamps burn low and famine gnaws at the gates, the Byzantines hold fast, believing their city guarded by the Mother of God herself. Inside those walls, a new culture blooms, a synthesis of Greek thought, Roman law, and Christian devotion. Scholars copy Aristotle beside scripture. Monks illuminate manuscripts with lapis and gold leaf, their quills scratching through the night. Chants drift through cloisters like slow waves. The empire, smaller now, turns inward, refining rather than expanding. Art becomes prayer, theology becomes statecraft, and survival itself becomes an act of worship. If you walk the colonnades at dusk, you will hear two languages intertwined, the Latin of empire, the Greek of eternity. You will see soldiers polishing bronze helmets while monks recite psalms beside them. You will smell bread from the bakeries mingled with incense from a nearby chapel. It is Rome, yet not Rome, an empire reborn through resilience rather than conquest. The West may call it Byzantium, but to its people it is still Basileia Romaion, the Roman Empire, shining like a candle shielded by cupped hands. The wind may howl across centuries, but the flame endures, and in that light, fragile, golden, defiant, the ancient dream of Rome flickers alive once more. Part 17. Icons and Empires. The centuries turn like slow wheels of gold and dust. Byzantium, the living heir of Rome, endures not by conquest, but by belief. The world around it shifts. Kingdoms rise in the west, caliphs rule in the east, yet Constantinople remains a beacon of marble and memory. The city glows by lamplight, its domes glimmering through sea fog, its towers reflected in the still waters of the Golden Horn. Within those walls, faith itself becomes the empire's foundation, and its deepest fault line. It begins with art. In churches and monasteries, painters cover walls with saints and angels. Their faces are calm, their eyes solemn, their halos like small suns. Each brushstroke is prayer, each panel a window to heaven. To gaze upon an icon is to meet the divine made visible, but beauty invites suspicion. Some believe these holy images are idolatry, that the eternal cannot be painted by mortal hands. Others insist that the Word became flesh, and therefore can be shown in color and light. From this tension grows the iconoclast controversy, a war not of swords, but of souls. In 726, Emperor Leo III issues his decree: the icons must fall. Soldiers storm churches, shattering frescoes, tearing down mosaics. The air fills with the sound of cracking plaster and the cries of the faithful. Monks hide their treasures in caves, wrapping images in linen soaked with tears. The empire fractures. In the west, the Pope condemns the destruction. In the east, patriarchs argue in echoing halls. What began as theology becomes politics. The years that follow are shadowed by fear and silence. Walls once bright with saints now stand bare. Worship turns austere, stripped of color and warmth. Yet, the forbidden art survives in secret, in hidden monasteries along the Black Sea, in remote caves of Cappadocia, where candles still flicker before veiled panels. The empire trembles under invasion and doubt, but the image, the icon, waits like a seed in winter. Then, in 843, after more than a century of turmoil, a procession moves through the streets of Constantinople. Candles burn in daylight, and the people sing hymns as icons return to the churches. The Empress Theodora, gentle yet resolute, restores their veneration. The city blooms again with color, gold leaf, lapis, cinnabar. Faith regains its face. The Feast of Orthodoxy is born, a celebration of endurance through heresy and time. Beyond the walls, however, the empire's borders continue to shrink. The Arabs hold the Holy Lands, the Bulgars press northward. Venice grows rich from trade once ruled by Byzantium, yet the capital remains luminous. Scholars debate Aristotle in candlelight, traders haggle over silks and spices, priests chant in low harmonies that ripple through the domes. The empire becomes a cathedral that has outlived its own builders. In the 9th and 10th centuries, new strength flickers. The Macedonian dynasty rises, emperors like Basil II, fierce and unyielding, whose sword carves peace from chaos. He defeats the Bulgars, blinds his captives, and earns the name Bulgar Slayer. Under his rule, the empire reaches its last great height. Art and learning flourish once more. Diplomats cross the world, bearing gold-sealed letters and gifts of silk. The Slavs and Rus convert to Christianity, carrying Byzantine faith into the forests and rivers of the north. The light of Constantinople spreads outward like dawn, even as the city itself grows weary. At home, wealth returns, mosaics glitter anew, palaces hum with intrigue, monasteries fill the hills. But power, as always, breeds complacency. After Basil's death, weak heirs squander his legacy. Eunuchs and generals scheme in perfumed corridors, soldiers grow restless, provinces slip away. The treasury empties into marble and ceremony. The empire, built on divine order, forgets the practical strength that once guarded its walls. Still, in quiet monasteries, the scribes continue their work. They copy texts that will one day save the wisdom of Greece, Plato, Homer, Euclid, preserving them through centuries of neglect. In this act, Byzantium ensures that Rome's mind will outlive Rome's sword. Even in decline, the empire's pen writes the future. Walk the streets of Constantinople near midnight, and you will hear the whisper of incense and waves. The air tastes of salt and candle smoke. From the Hagia Sophia drifts the hum of midnight prayer. Outside, merchants sleep beside crates of amber and silk. Soldiers patrol the walls, their armor dull with age, but their eyes still fixed on the dark horizon. Byzantium endures, smaller now, surrounded by enemies, yet infinite in memory. It has survived heresy, fire, and time. Its saints watch from their mosaics with eyes that never close, and the city itself feels like an icon, painted in light, cracked with age, but still radiant. Part 18. Crusades and Crossroads. The 11th century unfolds with uneasy grace. Byzantium, still proud, still adorned in silk and hymn, faces a world it can no longer command. Its emperors wear crowns heavy with both faith and fear. The city of Constantine glitters at the crossroads of continents, richer than any capital on earth, yet surrounded by hungry powers. To the east, the Seljuk Turks rise from the steppes, swift and relentless. To the west, Latin kingdoms sharpen their ambitions behind pious masks. Between them stands the empire, poised upon a fragile bridge of gold. The warning comes at Manzikert in 1071. The Byzantine army, proud and disciplined, marches into the mountains of Anatolia to confront the Turks. The day is hot, the dust thick, the air trembling with omens. Through confusion and betrayal, the battle dissolves into ruin. Emperor Romanos IV is captured. The army shatters. When he returns, blinded and broken, the empire itself feels the wound. Anatolia, the empire's heartland, begins to slip away, town by town, field by field. The loss is more than territory. It is breath leaving a body. In desperation, the emperors turn westward for help. Letters are sent to Rome and beyond, appealing to Christian solidarity. But the West, though wearing the same cross, has learned different prayers. When Pope Urban II calls for a crusade in 1095, his words ignite Europe. Knights from France, Germany, and Italy set forth, not to serve Byzantium, but to reclaim Jerusalem. They march east beneath banners painted with red crosses, believing themselves instruments of salvation. To the Byzantines, they appear as both saviors and storms. The first crusade passes through Constantinople like a tidal wave. The emperor Alexios Komnenos greets them with ceremony and suspicion. He feeds their armies, guides them across the Bosporus, and watches as they carve Latin kingdoms into lands that once belonged to his ancestors. For a brief moment, Christian triumph seems to unify East and West. Jerusalem taken, relics returned, prayers shared. But unity fades as quickly as it forms. The Latins see Byzantines as decadent. The Byzantines see Latins as barbarous. Between incense and steel, misunderstanding hardens into hatred. In the 12th century, commerce replaces crusade. Venetian, Genoese, and Pisan merchants fill the harbors, their ships heavy with spice, glass, and ambition. The empire becomes both marketplace and pawn. Gold flows through its ports, but not into its treasury. The streets of Constantinople hum with foreign tongues, foreign laws, foreign greed. The emperors bargain, marry, and maneuver, trading dignity for survival. Then comes the darkest irony. The Fourth Crusade, summoned to fight Islam, turns its sails toward Constantinople itself. In 1204, the greatest Christian city in the world is attacked by those who claim to serve the same God. The walls fall after weeks of siege. Latin banners rise over the domes. The city is plundered for 3 days. Churches burn, relics scatter, Nuns and monks are dragged into the streets. The Hagia Sophia becomes a stable for horses, its altars smashed, its mosaics stripped of gold. No barbarian ever inflicted such wounds, only fellow Christians. When the fires die, the empire is gone. In its place stands the Latin Empire, a hollow imitation wearing stolen crowns. The Venetians carve the spoils into trade routes. Relics are shipped westward, the bronze horses of St. Mark's now prancing above Venice's basilica. Byzantines flee to the shadows, Nicaea, Epirus, Trebizond. Yet even in exile they preserve their memory. Monks carry manuscripts, icons, and the idea of empire as pilgrims carry faith, fragile, sacred, unbroken. For half a century, the Greeks wander politically homeless, dreaming of return. Then, in 1261, the dream breathes again. Michael VIII, Palaiologos, shrewd and patient, retakes Constantinople while the Latin garrison sleeps. The city lies in ruin, its marble cracked, its statues headless, its population thin. But the cross of orthodoxy rises once more above the Hagia Sophia. Bells ring through streets choked with weeds, and tears fall like rain. The empire is reborn, smaller, poorer, but luminous in endurance. Yet recovery never becomes renewal. The West grows stronger, the Turks closer. The Byzantines rebuild their walls, but not their strength. Their scholars turn inward, studying Plato while their borders shrink. Still, the lamps in the city burn through the night, defying darkness. The Byzantines call themselves the last Romans, keepers of a sacred continuity stretching back to the Wolf and the Tiber. Walk the streets of restored Constantinople, and you will see beauty and melancholy intertwined. The mosaics gleam again, but many stones are borrowed from ruins. The markets sell silks and spices, but the voices are fewer. The empire survives as an echo made visible, fragile, golden, and aware that echoes fade. Part 19. The Last Walls. The 15th century begins with long shadows over a smaller world. Once, the empire's borders stretched from Britain to Babylon. Now, its reach barely extends beyond the smoke of Constantinople's chimneys. The sea around the city gleams cold and blue. The land beyond its walls belongs to others. Yet within those walls, candles still burn before ancient icons. The Byzantines walk their marble streets as though the past were not behind them, but folded invisibly into the air they breathe. The Palaiologos dynasty rules what remains, proud, impoverished, and weary. The emperors no longer command legions but pageants. Their armies are mercenaries paid in promises. The city itself endures through ritual. Every morning, the Hagia Sophia fills with incense and chant. The mosaics, darkened by centuries of smoke, still shimmer faintly when the sun slants through their windows. To stand within that space is to feel time hesitate, the air alive with memory, the floor worn smooth by devotion. Outside, though, the world has changed. To the west, new powers rise, Venice, Genoa, the kingdoms of Spain. To the east, an empire of a different kind expands. The Ottomans, disciplined, patient, relentless. They absorb city after city, fortress after fortress, until only Constantinople remains, an island of light in an ocean of conquest. Yet still, the Byzantines hope. Diplomats sail to Rome and beyond, seeking aid from Christian kings. Councils meet, creeds are debated, and unity is promised in words that neither side truly believes. In 1452, Emperor Constantine V stands upon the walls and watches the horizon flicker with campfires. Mehmed, the young sultan of the Ottomans, has come with an army vast enough to shake the earth. He brings cannons, bronze monsters never before seen, their bellies large enough to swallow men whole. Their thunder will replace the silence of centuries. Inside the city, the people prepare not for victory, but for dignity. Priests carry relics through the streets, monks repair walls with their bare hands. Latin and Greek soldiers stand side by side, united by fear more than faith. At night, the emperor walks the ramparts, the wind heavy with salt and prayer. Beneath the stars, he whispers to his ancestors, to Constantine the Great, to Justinian, to the nameless thousands who built this city of stone and spirit. The siege begins in April. For weeks, the sky fills with smoke. Cannon fire shakes the ground. Towers crumble like sand. Yet the defenders fight with desperate brilliance. From dawn until night, they hurl stones, pour boiling oil, sing hymns to drown the thunder. The city holds. Mehmed grows restless, his generals divided. But on May 29th, 1453, the final assault comes. The walls crack under the roar of cannon. The Turks surge forward, wave upon wave. The gates buckle, the defenders break, and the empire, after 1100 years, meets its end. Constantine V removes his imperial regalia and charges into battle as a soldier. His body is never found. Legend says an angel turned him to marble, to sleep beneath the golden gate until the empire's return. The Hagia Sophia falls silent as the conquerors enter. The last liturgy fades into the rhythm of foreign footsteps. The crescent rises above the dome where once the cross gleamed. Yet even in defeat, something of Rome remains. The Ottomans, awed by what they capture, preserve it more than they destroy. The city becomes Istanbul, the city of Islam, yet also the keeper of memory. The Hagia Sophia endures, its dome still vast, its stones still humming with centuries of prayer. Greek scholars flee westward, carrying with them the manuscripts of Plato, Aristotle, and Euclid. These scrolls, fragile and luminous, will spark the Renaissance, awakening the sleeping mind of Europe. Thus, the empire dies, only to transform. Its body falls, but its soul migrates into art, science, faith, and language. The Byzantines had once claimed to be the last Romans. Now their wisdom crosses the sea, lighting the cities that will inherit the world. The fall of Constantinople marks not the end of antiquity, but the birth of modernity. If you stand on the Bosporus at dusk, you can still feel the echo. The gulls cry above the domes, the sea shimmers gold, and the wind carries faint traces of old hymns. The city breathes, layered in faiths and centuries. The walls are ruins, yet they still hold the weight of the world. For though the empire has vanished, its idea, that order and beauty can outlast conquest, survives in every cathedral, every law, every dream that refuses to die. Part 20. Echoes in Stone and Memory. Night settles softly over a city that has been reborn too many times to count. Constantinople, now Istanbul, glows beneath the quiet hum of lamps and sea wind. The muezzin's call drifts through the air where once priests sang in Latin and Greek. The empire of Rome is gone, yet its pulse endures here, beneath the stones, in the bones of streets that still remember the rhythm of sandals and hymns. Time itself feels layered, pagan beneath Christian, Christian beneath Ottoman, all resting on the same ancient ground. The story of Rome does not end with its walls. It dissolves, transforms, and resurfaces in ways the old emperors could never have imagined. The monks who fled with books from the burning city carried more than ink and parchment. They carried continuity. In Florence, Venice, and Paris, their manuscripts find new readers. The thoughts of Aristotle and Plato, copied for centuries in Byzantine hands, ignite the Renaissance. Artists paint with the geometry of Roman proportion. Architects raise domes in imitation of Hagia Sophia's impossible curve. The wisdom of a dead empire teaches the living world how to see again. The Latin West, once Rome's pupil, now becomes its heir. Cathedrals rise where basilicas once stood. Laws echo the reason of jurists who wrote under emperors long vanished. Even the languages of Europe carry Rome's ghost. French and Spanish, Italian and Portuguese, all children of Latin, all whispering fragments of its syntax. To speak them is to repeat, unknowingly, the melody of an empire that still shapes how the world dreams. Beyond Europe, the idea spreads further still. When explorers cross oceans, they carry with them Roman notions of order, hierarchy, and ambition. When scholars draft constitutions, they invoke senates and republics born on the Tiber. When engineers draw roads and aqueducts, they mirror the same logic that once bound Britain to Syria. Rome's genius was not its armies, but its architecture of thought, a framework flexible enough to outlive its creators. And yet, behind this triumph of legacy, there remains a quieter truth. The Romans built to last, but nothing lasts unchanged. The Colosseum stands half-ruined, its arches open to sky and pigeons. The Forum sleeps beneath weeds and tourists. The baths are dry, the temples empty. But listen carefully, and the silence hums. Wind moves through broken columns like a low, eternal breath. The ruins do not mourn, they remember. Every empire believes it is permanent. Rome's gift and warning is that permanence lies not in conquest, but in transmission. The city's real immortality is not carved in marble, but carried in minds, languages, and dreams. It survives not by standing, but by being rebuilt, endlessly, under different skies. Walk through any modern city, Paris, London, New York, and you will feel it. The arches, the grids, the laws, the rhythm of civic life all trace their lineage back to the hills of Latium. The citizens may no longer wear togas or speak Latin, but their world, their sense of order, their faith in progress are Roman at heart. The empire lives wherever structure meets imagination. At night, when the streets quiet and the lights glow in rows like the torches of ancient processions, you might catch the faintest echo, a hoof on stone, a voice reciting Cicero, a psalm in Byzantine mode, a chant carried by sea wind. These are not ghosts, but continuities, reminders that nothing human ever fully disappears. Rome is less a place than a pattern, built, broken, rebuilt again. Its story began with twins suckled by a wolf beside a river. It passed through kings and senators, soldiers and saints, emperors and exiles. It became the church, the law, the library, the university, the dream of empire repeated in new tongues. It became the shape of the Western mind, rational, ordered, yearning for eternity. And in the end, perhaps, that yearning is eternity. So the city sleeps once more, beneath domes and stars. The waves of the Bosporus lap against its ancient stones. Above them, the moonlight touches marble that has outlived gods, languages, and kings. Rome's empire is gone, but its reflection gleams in every civilization that followed. The ruins whisper not of loss, but of persistence, the quiet miracle of memory itself. If you listen closely, you may hear it even now, the faint rhythm of sandals on distant stone, the murmur of a forum long vanished, the hush of a world that refuses to forget. For the empire never truly ended, it only changed its form. The night deepens, the sea breathes, the candles burn low, the world remembers you,